Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for November 23rd. I want to take a look in this reading and just see what this coming week looks like, what you know, what we should be maybe forewarned about, or what we can expect or anticipate in Washington with Trump, with the Biden transition. So let's just see if we can see anything interesting in the cards. For those of you who are here, thank you so much. To my subscribers, I adore you. To all of the new subscribers, welcome to Soulprint. I hope you enjoy the Soulprint community, and feel free to comment and thumbs up and like and share and do all of that kind of stuff. So thank you very, very much for all of it. All of your support. The donations coming in are amazing, and I thank you so much for them. Yeah, and there we have it. Okay, so let's take a look at Washington, whoopsie, this coming week, and just see if we can get a bit of a read on what is going on and what we can most likely expect or anticipate. Here we go. Come on down. I have a question. And there's my handy dandy wand. Okay. So, politics this week, politics this week, politics this week. All right, so because I've got the High Priestess here and Temperance here, I'm just going to share with viewers who may not have seen it. On Sunday, the Soulprint puts out a positive energy circle. The one that was released yesterday was about balance. It was about bringing, two opposing sides together in a way so that they can meet in the center and then grow from there. So that's a really interesting thing, that sort of two cards with that kind of feeler energy have also surfaced in the initial layout of the cards. If you are interested, I invite you to check out the Soulprint Positive Energy Circle. It appears in both the Soulprint Intuitive Tarot and the Soulprint Insights channel. Alrighty. So part of what you're going to be seeing this coming week is more and more GOP members starting to push back and starting to say, already, enough is enough. You need to move this transition along. It's very much an energy of even those that support him really feel he needs to get off the pot on this and get moving, because there really is so much that he's trying to manipulate behind the scenes, and none of it is working for him. I mean, my Lord, his court cases are getting pitched out of court faster than, I don't even know what. So there's definitely an energy that's going to start surrounding Trump that really is people being fatigued. And I'm talking about people in his inner circle. I'm talking about those people he can normally count on. He was an absolute embarrassment at the G20, carried on as if, he was more special than anybody else. I think he was humiliated. I think he was embarrassed. And, we understand that Trump doesn't do those emotions. And so what you have is a man putting in perfunctory appearances and then going golf because really he can't figure out what to do. Now, There are people who are saying, you know, listen, he's plotting his future. It's all about, you know, another political run. It's all about this media corporation storm. He's just going to take over, and it's all about plotting his revenge. None of that is going to happen. It really, really feels like Trump is holding on kind of by a thread, just in terms of his stamina and his health, and certainly his mental faculties. So he can be living in sort of whatever little fantasy world he wants. It doesn't really feel as if going forward, there's going to be a whole lot of that going on. In fact, going forward, what you're going to see is a whole lot of defending himself as people literally abandon him. You know, he really, really, really wants to go back and live in the past. And the reality is not going to support that for him. So, you know, you're going to have kind of this lone figure in a bubble who's really trying to get to another space and time. And the world is moving forward, whether he likes it or not, whether he is part of that forward movement or not. People cannot continue to hang around and wait for him to do basic, fundamental, traditional things connected to the presidency. He's not going to do it. And he's going to really, really start to experience some pushback. Energetically, I'm also getting the impression that so will Emily Murphy, the GSA person who is supposed to, you know, push whatever button or sign whatever paper and getting that transition money flowing. I actually don't think that she's going to be able to hold out for much longer. I also think as we approach Thanksgiving, you're going to see, you know, a little bit more pushback. And then I think once Thanksgiving is over, you're going to see significant pushback if things have not settled down into something that even sort of resembles a traditional transition period. Trump is really focused right now on saving his ego, protecting his money and his assets, because he is really, really scared of ending up in the courts trying to defend himself. And he really is. I think the strategy in some ways is literally to just create so much mud in the water that at some point people in authority say, listen, just go. You want immunity? Fine. You want this? Fine. Just get out of the White House. And his strategy really is let's see if I can really irritate somebody into blinking and, you know, giving me what I want. I don't know. It doesn't really feel like that's going to play out so well for him, because even though, you know, there are still many, many Republicans who will happily lay down and let him walk right over them, the Democrats, not quite so much. And while Joe Biden at this point is saying that he does not want his administration to turn into, you know, a continual parade of Trump being investigated and charged, I think that some of the more egregious stuff, well, you know, on a federal level, they may not exactly go after Trump, as opposed to just fill in and fix some of the loopholes. But honestly, when it comes to the state of New York, he is going to be in a world of hurt. And, you know, they are ready. Make no mistake about it. This is not like, oh, okay, sometimes after the inauguration, they'll, you know, start putting paperwork together. Oh, no, no, no. They are like ready to go. And he's going to have a really, really hard time kind of coping with that, because the very thing that protected him is no longer in place. The presidency is no longer in place. And the thing is that as he goes forward and becomes more and more of a lame duck, and as he really continues to just not be coping very well with everything that's going on around him, even some of those people that were supporting him are going to start to really pull back, because they're going to start to recognize that there is not going to be no 2024 run for the presidency. And therefore, they really, really don't have to kind of keep pacifying the toddler in chief. So there's going to be some interesting energy around him this week, and he's not going to like it. He's getting really, really worked up about having to defend himself, not having Bill Barr there to, protect the president. And you can bet that Bill Barr is not going to become some personal lawyer for him once Trump is back, being a sort of normal, regular citizen. So he's really, really bugged about, legalities and things going forward that way and how much it's going to cost him and how much money he has. And that's why you see that really intense fundraising that's going on, because he really needs to get a whole bunch of money so that he can fight his personal legal challenges, although that's not how it's being presented, but that really is what is sort of going on there. So this week you can anticipate Trump being, he's going to continue to sort of hide, right? He doesn't have a way not to. I'm starting honestly to question, how many turkeys he might end up pardoning besides the turkey. So I think there's some of that stuff rolling around in his mind. But again, any appearances he makes is going to be to spout nonsense, sound slightly unhinged, and take absolutely no comments or no questions, because he doesn't want to get questions like, well, why haven't you moved the transition along? Why, how do you feel, Mr. President, about the fact that you got your ass whooped and handed to you on a silver platter? He doesn't want to hear that. And so if you see him out and about, it's going to be very, very controlled, and he is not going to have anything to say in response. Okay, he wants to get out there and spout his nonsense. But again, I'm not seeing a lot of it going on. And I did mention last week that I had kind of this weird little feeling around Thanksgiving and the Trump family. Now, I have been told that they're not going to be in Mar-a-Lago, or he's not going to be in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know about the rest of them. For Thanksgiving, but I really still do see sort of that low profile. It would not surprise me at all if he ended up, at one of his golf resorts, Bedminster, whatever one are close, and just sort of hung out there, wanting to be surrounded by, his tribe, the people who believe in him, or more the people just who are members of the club who feel they have no choice at this point but pacify him. It's sort of about a 40-60 split, I suspect. So there's kind of this crazy balancing game that's going on in the White House right now, where as he is throwing more and more people under the bus, the ones left standing are trying to juggle this hot potato, and they sound more ridiculous. They sound more foolish. And that you can expect some of that this week. Although I have to say, it really feels like the media outlets, okay? So the news agencies and stuff are really, really going to just continue to pull away from covering Trump. They're going to be covering the bare minimum, and they're going to be cutting away as soon as he starts spouting, a tsunami of lies. And so he's going to start reacting to that too, because he's going to feel like the oxygen around him is sort of being depleted, and it is shifting to the Biden-Harris administration and that transition. Biden, of course, is going to be, I think it's tomorrow, he's going to be announcing some of the positions for, like for the finance department, State Department, Health and Human Services, whatever. So there's going to be announcements. People are going to be revved up. They're going to be excited. There's going to be a lot of talk about that. And nobody really wants to listen to Trump like whining like a child because, somebody took away his toy. So he's going to get more and more frustrated, and I can actually see him leaving the White House probably on Wednesday, getting out of Dodge, getting to some secluded, one of his wherever it is he goes, and just sort of hiding out. That's going to continue to be what happens. The other thing that's really interesting is, they keep pushing this, all of these court cases, because they really, really believe that if they can just get this whole election thing that they're suing everybody about to the Supreme Court, that they'll save his presidency for him. He is so dead wrong. It's like not even funny. The Supreme Court does not want to be connected to this humiliation, this absolutely disgrace of democracy that he has created under his watch. And so I don't believe that it's going to even, the Supreme Court is even going to take it up. I think that he is just whistling in the wind. It's not going to work for him. It is over. One hopes that towards the end of this week, perhaps he may start to process that information. But again, I really get that feeling that he's not going to be out and about. He really is going to be sort of keeping himself, kind of protected, hidden, that kind of thing. Very controlled environments, because he doesn't want to have to answer any questions. He just wants to be able to do a monologue and walk away. Behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. And frankly, behind the scenes, it's not going really well. And so that in and of itself is creating more of that stress and that anger and that rage. And, more and more as people come out and say, listen, enough is enough. This transaction needs to move forward. I think it was yesterday that Chris Christie called Trump's defense team, so that would be, dye dripping down his cheeks, Giuliani, a national embarrassment, I think is what he called them. So, he really is losing support, because it's so undignified what he is doing, and there's not a lot of people who are going to continue to stand firm with him, because court case after court case is getting, chucked out. And so they can't keep saying, well, he has the right to a fair blah, 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 because he has had that. It has been given, and he has lost. So, and frankly, there really are some people who are starting to recognize that even their Republican supporters are getting a little embarrassed by what's going on. So that's going to prove to be interesting. It really does feel to me like the transition is definitely going to get that push forward, or that start forward, this week. I don't know. I really had thought that Emily Murphy would have certified the election by this time, and she hasn't. But I don't imagine she's going to be able to hold out more than a couple of days. And the restrictions that have been placed on the Biden-Harris team, you're going to see them, letting go. But the burden they're carrying is still very, very heavy. They have lost valuable time. And, but make no mistake, there is a lot going on behind the scenes in the Biden-Harris headquarters, I guess, that is very proactive, and they have everything in place to sort of outmaneuver him at every stop. Joe Biden, do not expect him to get really aggressive about Donald Trump. He's going to show frustration, but he's not going to go after him, because he really doesn't want to get down to that level, one. And two, he kind of keeps wanting to dangle this carrot about, well, I really don't want to spend all my time going after Trump. Whether that's actually true or not, I'm not sure. And, is it he's not going after them? It might be his Justice Department. It certainly is going to be New York. So there's stuff going on that we're just simply not privy to. But behind the scenes, Biden and Harris are systematically moving forward, and they're getting information. And once the constraints are removed, they're going to be in a good place in terms of absorbing the new information they're getting and being able to put it into place and add to the already existing picture that they're working with. It's like a jigsaw puzzle with sections not done. But as those pieces free up, they're going to be able to very easily sort of plug them in to the information they already have. All right. So there really is a great deal of disappointment that Trump is trying to process. And understand, he's not disappointed because he doesn't get to be president for 4 more years. He's disappointed because he doesn't get to continue to milk the federal government. He doesn't get to continue taking advantages of states and cities where he goes and does things and then doesn't pay for it. He is upset because even he, in his deluded state, understands that his brand has really, really taken a kicking. And this is the thing, right? The very people who support Trump are the very people, by and large, who cannot afford to go stay at his hotel, who cannot afford to buy whatever Trump merchandise is still out there. And so the only way that he could have made the whole presidency into a money-making situation was exactly the way he did it, just by ripping off people left, right, center, blind, backwards, forwards, etc., and having the likes of Mnuchin in there protecting him from, his tax returns being released, protecting all kinds of stuff. But the disappointment is that his ego has been bruised. The disappointment is that he feels as if those days of making all of that money are coming to an end. And he's not sure that he has enough of it tucked away. He's not sure. And he's sort of aware on some level that there really are going to be investigations in terms of the money that was paid to all of these Trump properties. That's something that you actually can anticipate in the new administration, whatever House committees those are. They actually are going to start looking at some of the incredible costs that were associated with Trump. As those numbers start to come out, I'm talking about as we move into January, et cetera, as those numbers come out, you're going to see GOP members like really not having a leg to stand on, because when those true numbers come out, it is going to be horrifying the amount of money he was able to siphon from the federal government into his personal businesses, therefore into his personal pocket. So there is going to be some justice coming down the road for him. But I want you to understand this. Karma is an interesting thing. Sometimes we get to see little fragments of it or pieces of it make their way around fairly quickly, which is sort of going to be what we're going to see when he keeps getting hauled into state court because his company is so corrupted that, it's just a disaster. You're going to see that if he gets hauled into court and has to provide DNA samples because he is, fighting a defamation suit. So there's going to be that, but I fear that some people are just wanting to see him absolutely destroyed and turned to ash, and nothing else is going to do or suit them. And that's just not the way it works. And in fact, you want to be very careful that you yourself are not gleeful about what he is going to be going through, because that too will come back and backfire, on you. So you need to understand that while there is going to be some retribution that you see when it comes to Trump going forward, you're not going to see it all. It's not all going to happen in this lifetime. And so I guess sort of the message is, listen, be happy with what you get. Take solace and comfort from that, knowing that to some degree he has been restrained and he has gotten a slap on the hand or whatever punishment is meted out to him. But, the energy is shifting going forward in time. And so vengeance is no longer kind of going to be an appropriate or acceptable energy going forward. There has to be sort of a more holistic understanding. And, so there's going to be a lot of shifts as we move forward from, kind of the end of December and into 2021. It's not all going to be smooth, but there's definitely going to be sort of an attitude shift about, kind of how things should be done or seen or expressed. So just a little heads up there. The G20 was interesting because even those people that he counted on, the Saudi Arabians, the Netanyahu, there was somebody else, like people that he really felt were in his back pocket or he could turn to them. They publicly denounced his behavior going forward in the G20 in terms of like climate change and current, and especially I think there was a lot that was going on about the vaccine for the coronavirus and figuring out how to kind of work together so that it could get maximum benefit and get out where it needs to get out to sort of tap this thing down. And he, of course, was his standalone America first, whatever. And besides, COVID's around the corner and we're all done, like whatever nonsense. But so even internationally, he really is coming out of favor with people that I think he thought he could really count on. And that's not going to sit well with him, because I actually think that some of his plans or his strategies or his thinking was that he was going to be able to rely on some of these people. And this is the thing, we know Trump and we know his behaviors. They have publicly sided against him, and that's all it's going to take, right? He's going to be out for blood now. And so there's just some really interesting dynamics that are playing out in the next week or two. It really, really feels like there's going to be a lot of chickens coming home to roost in a lot of different ways and a lot of different areas. And, the transition is going to go through. The promise is there. It's going to hold. Don't lose hope. Don't get all wound up about this. It's going to unfold, and ultimately everything is going to be stabilized. It's not going to bounce back to the way it was. In fact, it never is going to. So if that's your anticipation, you're kind of going to be disappointed. But there's going to be new hope and new beginnings and new ways of doing things. And that is powerful. And, you got to understand there's just a lot of energy in Washington that really does need to be cleared away. There's a lot of backroom dealing, a lot of corruption, a lot of all of it. And, it's not that it is going to be eradicated with the removal of Trump, because if there weren't a bunch of really corrupt people already in Washington, they would have stopped him, right? The Lindsey Grahams and the Grassleys and the McConnells, they would have stopped him had they had no skeletons in their closet that they were worried about. But still in all, hold on to the hope and the promise going forward, because it really is going to be okay. It's going to be a shift going forward, but systematically, one thing at a time, slowly, things are going to start getting corrected, as you are into later January, February, etc. There are some difficult decisions that are being made behind the scenes by kind of a lot of people, in terms of breaking with Trump, in terms of how to sort of salvage their reputations. There's a lot of jockeying for position right now going on, and I don't necessarily know that it's going to work out that well, because unless you really are surrounded by those sort of Kool-Aid drinking Trump followers, there are other people in the GOP who are really profoundly glad that he is just not going to be there anymore. And so, it feels like sort of, listen, they got everything out of him they could, and now it's time for him to go away because he's being an embarrassment. And so there's decisions being made behind the scenes just in terms of, financial support for Trump, business relationships with Trump. There's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to yet. But slowly, he's going to start finding out that he has way, way less support than he thinks he does, because too many people are too busy trying to get some distance between themselves and him and what went on. All right. So listen, the next week or two, really, it feels like there's going to be an increased amount of anxiety and worry and stress, probably not only in the White House, but just generally speaking. Everybody just needs to take a couple step backs, breathe in, continue doing whatever you're doing to sort of put fire under people's feet who need fire, need their feet held to the fire. But going forward, it really is going to settle down. And the transition team is strong, and they're going to make strong headway going forward. And I just want to remind people that this is the thing. It is the United States who has the one president at a time motto. Rightly so, for goodness sakes. You don't want two of them running around issuing contrasting orders. But if people are feeling frustrated because Biden hasn't done enough, or there hasn't been enough changing and shifting, understand this is your political system. Biden really doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of authority anywhere until he takes that oath of office at the inauguration. So people who are wanting fireworks and explosion and all of this rapid movement from the Biden team to just get this done, they can't. Trump is still president, and you have to remember that and not get frustrated and angry. It is those swings of emotions that really, really create an inability for people to calm down and meet in the center. And so I'm just, giving you a heads up. If you find yourself getting really frustrated and made kind of a little crazy by what is going on, I just ask you to take a few deep breaths and realize that whether anybody likes it or not, Trump is still president of the United States, and he will remain so until either he leaves early and Pence takes over, I don't know about that, or the inauguration. And so expecting miracles from the Biden team at this point is frankly just sort of unrealistic, right? It's just not going to happen. That's not how your government works. Okay, so a brand new week, and new things to watch for, and new things to, keep in perspective and keep safe. The numbers of the COVID transmissions are really, really escalating. They're very frightening, and I don't want you to be frightened. I do want you, however, to be safe and attentive to what's going on around you. All right, I think that's it for right now. Take care, be well, and we'll see you really soon. Bye-bye.